Thanks. How's everybody today? Good? It's a beautiful day. Beautiful day in San Antonio. I got my phone on and I have one of those one of my lines from when I'm receiving a message. I have one of my lines on here. Hello, what do we have here? Okay.
All right, so I'm going to help host it a little bit here since there's only one microphone and I've got a loud enough voice. You can all hear me, yes? Yes. Yay. Now this is a Q&A, which means it's interactive, which means don't be shy. If you have a question, put your hand in the air. You're going to say your name, you're going to say your questions. Don't ask too many questions about what it was like 30 years ago. I bet you all don't remember what it was like 30 years ago. Let's ask really interesting questions. Put your thinking caps on. This is your chance to get questions answered that aren't all over the internet. Everybody can agree to that, right? Yay! So, to get us started, I want to let everybody know who may not know, Billy, aside from being a very accomplished and award-winning actor, is also an accomplished and award-winning artist. So, Billy, why don't you share with everybody a little bit of your art background?
Well, I grew up in New York City, and I went to a school called Music and Art High School. That was a school that was like performing arts, except that we had a department for painters as well as performers, musical performers specifically. And I was an art major, and I was there for 4 years, and then after I left there, I got a scholarship to a school called the National Academy of Design for the Fine Arts, where I spent 4 years under scholarship, 2 years under scholarship painting. And I was nominated, I was 19 years old, I was nominated for a Guggenheim, and I received a Hallgarten, which is comparable to a Guggenheim. And so painting has been very much a part of my life and very much a part of my passion. It's the one thing, you know, when you're in the movie business or you're in the theater business, it's pretty much a collective. And you're working with the writers, directors, and producers, but you know, when you're a painter, you just lock yourself in a room and you got your easel and you got your paints and you have your canvas, and you just express yourself in a very personal terms. So it's a wonderful, excruciating outlet. And I say excruciating only because you know, a lot of people think it's therapeutic. For me, it's, you know, when you're trying to arrive at an idea or a point of view, you know, you have this idea in your head, and then you have to execute it or expedite it. It can be very, very painstaking. So, but when, you know, when you have the final result, and the final result is good, then it's worth all of the pain that you go through, you know. So I guess this life is not without its pains or pain.
And Mr. Williams has a painting in the Smithsonian, correct?
Yeah, I have the Smithsonian owns one of my pieces, the National Portrait Gallery, and the Schoenberg in New York has one of my pieces, and the Kansas City Jazz Museum has one of my pieces, because I've done a lot of pieces on jazz. That was my era. I grew up in that era, the bebop era. So I've done a lot of pieces on that, but I do a lot of different themes. But it's a wonderful way to express oneself. you're able to. My daughter, she's wonderful. She won't paint though. I wish she would paint. But she actually she runs a gallery. She works for one of probably the premier art dealer in the world, Larry Gargosian. So she runs this whole situation there. So she's much more administrative. That was always very interesting to me. You know, he was a young person who was very creative, extremely creative, but really enjoyed. And I saw, you know, it's like watching. You know, having children is wonderful. I mean, I always enjoyed my children. She was very artistic, but she was much more administrative. And she enjoyed really organizing art as opposed to really sitting down and doing it. But now my granddaughter, she and I have been, we've been painting a lot lately, so that's been a lot of fun. And my grandson.
And if you guys want to see some of Mr. Williams' work, you can go to his website, which is bdwworldart.com, and you can see a little sampling of what he has. And if any of you are ever up in Toronto recently, or will be going, there is the List Gallery, which has his art on display and for sale. And if you want to see a sample of one of the pieces, we actually have a poster hanging behind him on his booth. It's a lithograph of the painting he did based on The Empire Strikes Back. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I'm going, I think somebody wants me to go to Maui in September. They're having a jazz festival there, and I work a lot with the Thelonious Monk Jazz Institute in Washington, D.C. We put on competitions every year, and that's pretty extraordinary. And but there's somebody else who's doing a jazz competition in Maui in September, and I'm probably going to end up showing some paintings there at the gallery. So if anybody's in Maui in September, you'll probably see some of the paintings.
Anyone going to Maui? Anyone want to go to Maui? Yay. All right, so don't be shy. If you have questions, put your hands in the air, because now is when I'm going to look at you and say, what's your question? So perfect, see? Repeat the website. BDW, it's his initials, Billy Dee Williams, bdwworldart.com, all one word.
I have two, but BDW, everybody thinks it's BD Wart. But no, I have two kids, Corey and Hanako. Hanako is that's Japanese, it means flower, I think. My wife's Japanese, so. I'm influenced by an awful lot of people. Thomas Hart Benton, what's his name? Well, the Mexican muralists. I always liked the Mexican muralists. Rivera, Orozco, Segueros. But there was the old masters. You know, I studied all of that stuff. So there's African art, a lot of it, especially the stuff from Benin, North African art. But I'm influenced by just about everything, really, to tell you the truth. You know, I call my work abstract reality, and what I mean by that, as real as things are, they are as abstract. It gives me a lot of levels to play on. But of course, I came up during the whole period when I was a kid, the abstract expressionists, especially in New York City. But I borrow from everybody. But I always say I steal from everybody. More edgy.
Put your hands in the air if you have them. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Could you please tell me how you felt being a leading actor as a man of color at a time when there really wasn't much going on? I'm especially thinking of mahogany and things like that, because you were, publicized as being sexy, sexy, sexy at a time that it just wasn't happening.
I don't know. I was just a working actor. I'm just thinking about getting the next job. That was all that was in my brain, and finding interesting things to do. That's all that I ever thought about. My whole life has been a very eclectic life, you know, so I don't find myself dwelling on all of these, you know, concerns that a lot of people have.
Yes, sir.
Other than your role as microcurrency, was there something else at the time that you were looking at that may have gone a different route?
Well, I was gaining a lot of popularity around that time, and because of Brian's song "Lady Sings the Blues," "Mahogany," and a few other things that I was doing. And so when that was introduced to me, or you know, I really looked forward to doing it because I wanted to, you know, because the whole idea of working with George Lucas was I think a formidable, in my mind. You know, at that time you had all of these new filmmakers coming along, like Spielberg and Scorsese and Coppola. So to be able to work and be a part of that whole movement was very exciting for me. And then, of course, when I met Irv Kershner, whom I always admired, I thought he was one of the most brilliant filmmakers in the United States of America. So it was an opportunity, you know, that I just seized on. Did you see me on Kimmel? Anybody see that? Yeah. Well, that was one idea. But I think the best idea to me is, since I'm at this particular juncture in my life, is to have like a beautiful daughter who's a Jedi. You know, that's a good way to reintroduce myself.
As of right now, none of the original cast has signed on, but in order to get them to sign on, all of you are how it happens. You need to Twitter, blog, Facebook, get JJ's office in LA, send him handwritten letters. If you, the fans, demand them to be in it, that's how it's going to happen. So it's in your hands. You can tell us, but there's not much we can do. So Twitter, blog, Facebook, whatever you can, get it out there. We want to see Land, or we want to see Han, whatever. It's your job. You all going to do that? Does anyone have JJ's address? We'll find it. All right, who's next? Yes, sir.
Hey, Billy.
Hey.
All the Hollywood actors, it's really nice. I wanted to know, was there a part, maybe one that sticks out in particular that you wanted to play but you didn't get?
Not really. I've been very fortunate, you know. I mean, there are projects that I wanted to do, and I tried to get off the ground. You know, I've always wanted to play, for instance, Duke Ellington, and that was very difficult. I came very close a few times, but it never really happened. And I always felt that I was the best person to do Ellington because I understood that sensibility, you know, that kind of elegance. But there was another character that a lot of people don't realize was a mulatto, was Alexander Dumas. And that was he was an extraordinary, bigger than life kind of character, and I always liked playing around with bigger than life kind of characters. So that we tried to do and was not able to do.
Hands? Yes.
Yes, kind of building off of this question. When you played Harvey Dent in Batman, did you ever at one point want to play Two-Face?
Oh, absolutely. But I just, they had changed hands. So I think Sony bought them out, and it never happened. But they went through a lot of changes anyway. I mean, how many Batmans have they had? And all of the characters. But no, I think it would have been really interesting. It would have been a departure, but it didn't happen. So, you know, you win some, you lose some.
Hands?
know, I keep thinking I've been to San Antonio, because my father's from Texas, from Houston. I buried him here in Texas. I think I've been here through in my travels.
Yes.
But it's very nice to be here now, and I find the people here really wonderful.
Mariah's song is, according to ESPN, considered one of the top 10 sports movies in history. Who do you think are more passionate fans, sci-fi fans or sports fans? Concerning, your career.
Well, I think it's equal. I think an awful lot of people remember that experience, that Brian song, and it's a classic. And they still play it. I was in Europe one time and I would put the tube on, and it was playing. So it has a kind of really wonderful longevity. But I think it's equal.
Hands? Yes.
How much did I get?
No, how much free?
Free Colt 45? I got a lot of their water. They used a certain spring water, I think, at the time, in their beer. But I'm not a big beer drinker. But it's a good beer. I always thought it was a pretty good beer.
So if you're not a beer drinker, what do you drink?
I like to drink fine wines. I'm a big wine drinker. But beer, there are a lot of beer connoisseurs, people aficionados, and who really get into it. And I think it has as much importance as any fine wine that you can find.
So who's for beer? Hand? Who's for wine?
Have you ever had the Amarone? It's an Italian wine. Oh, it's wonderful. Wow, it's a brilliant wine. Brilliant bouquet mixture.
Mr. Williams has one more night in town. What should he try here? You tell us. What? Riverwalk? I don't think you can drink that. What I meant was what would be consumed. Your beer is what? Lone Star beer? Okay. Oh, they're all screaming Shiner Bot, Shiner Bot.
Do you guys have local beers here? Yeah. It's called what? Shiner Box?
Bot?
Shiner Bot.
B-O-C-K. Shiner Bot.
Shiner Bock. Oh.
Can we get it at any restaurant?
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah, I'd like
Any
to.
good restaurant?
Yeah, we can find that. I'd love to try that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sweet. All right, well, we may need to go find some of that tonight then. Cool.
Shiner Box.
Shiner Bach.
Bach.
You know what? Just you come to our table and write it down for us. All right. Anyone else? Put your hands up. What's that? If somebody goes over and buys us some, maybe he'll try it. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? Don't be shy. Come on, guys. Yes.
What was the most fun experience you had doing a movie or commercial or TV show? Just all your acting experiences, what was the most fun you had?
Well, I guess most of the experiences have been really interesting and fun and enjoyable. Certainly fun. I certainly had a lot of fun doing the Bingo Long Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings, which was about the Negro baseball teams during the 30s and 40s. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And what about now, Billy? You're doing a lot of work with Seth Green and Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, the robot chicken and stuff like that. Yeah, I love doing that stuff. And the one that's on the net.
We've got Star Wars Detours, and then
Yeah,
you have the
that.
new one, Yoda Chronicles,
Yeah.
the Lego thing.
Yeah, I get a kick out of doing that stuff. But it's real interesting to me because I spent a lot of time parodying myself, you know, which is very interesting. You know, it's like trying to find how many ways can I, you know, parody myself. You know, it's really interesting.
Yes, sir.
It's nice to laugh about yourself, to tell you the truth, or at yourself. Well, I had an Ewok head, and I got a lot of stuff from the early years when you know, that was collectibles that I put away. But I should have kept the cape because that was the key to my character. Yeah.
Sadly, with the Star Wars stuff, Lucasfilm was so tight. Even the actors, none of the main cast even got a full script. They only got their parts. So we wish. You had your hand, right? Yes.
Is there any actor you get mistaken for like all the time?
Yeah, the guy from...
Well, the other day,
What's his name?
somebody got mistaken. I didn't tell you this one. I got mistaken for Berry Gordy. I'm going, well, I get mistaken for Quincy Jones, Herbie Hancock,
And it's Carl Weathers from Rocky.
Carl Weathers.
People come up to the table and they see all the Star Wars stuff and go, we loved you in Rocky 3 or whatever it is. Really?
Well, he's much more muscular, though. Well, he used to be. I don't know what he is now.
Yes.
Since you're a wine drinker, would you ever lend your likeness to a wine company? They call it Calrissian Casanova.
Absolutely.
Are you planning something? It is $1 million. Don't be shy if you have more. Yes?
What's your advice, your personal advice for someone who would like to make an actor?
Well, first of all, I think if you want to pursue it, it's a wonderful, it can be a wonderful profession. I think that you really have to dedicate yourself and go through all of the machinations that all actors go through when they're trying to, you know, become successful at it. I think you have to just really study hard, work hard, read a lot, go to museums, study people, just surround yourself with as much experience or experiences as possible. But practice, practice, practice. That's always my mantra. Is practice, practice, practice. I think that's the key.
Are you a young actor?
And do theater. Do a lot of theater if you can. If you can find places to do theater, it's a good idea. I think that's for me. I did a lot of theater, and I still do theater. I think that's if you really want to learn about what you're capable of doing, I think theater is the way to go.
So theater. You gonna be in a show soon? No? Oh, okay. Yes.
Both. I love theater and I love movies, television. Yeah.
Any way to release from inside and perform is...
Yeah, you know, it doesn't make any difference where you do it. As long as you do it, you can learn from all of those experiences. And they're different.
Does it make you more nervous than film or TV?
Well, you know, it's all a challenge, no matter what. And there's a way to deal with your nerves. You know, you just channel your nerves into what you're doing, and then you stop being nervous.
And the experiences are different as well because you figure TV is very fast. plays, you get to rehearse a lot. In films, you can do as many takes as you want. So it's
I ended up doing for a while, soap, and that was a different experience. I just wanted to find out what that was all about. And that you don't really have a tremendous amount of time to do anything. You got to be right on. Listen, I admire people who do sitcoms. I mean, because that is, especially when I watch a show like the nerd show,
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, which is my favorite show of all time. I mean, the writing is just incredible writing. But to watch this kind of repartee, this kind of dialogue exchange, is just, and these kids are really fantastic to me. That scares me. That kind of stuff really scares me.
Yes.
It's funny you mentioned sitcoms. I remember seeing you on a 70s show. Most of those principal actors were unknowns at the time. They established themselves by the time the characters in 2017 came on. I was just curious, what was that experience like?
Scary. Yeah. But I wanted to see, I wanted to see if I could do it. And I think I succeeded in doing it. I think I was okay. The whole idea for me, just playing around with humor is something that I really enjoy. I just want to see how can I use my particular, because each one of us is unique in our own way. And we all sort of hear things differently, and we respond to things differently. And, and I always want to see what my level of humor is all about. How do I respond to humor? How do I respond and make people laugh?
Would that be a challenge that you'd be willing to accept now?
You mean right at this moment?
No. Yes, go ahead, make them laugh. No, just like if NBC came to you and offered you a leading role on a new sitcom, would you take it? Would you take it?
Well, it depends. It depends how much work I have to do.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. Yes.
You mentioned you did your dad from a lot of Jack. Who were your main influences as you played?
Well, I know a lot of jazz musicians, like Wayne Shorter, Herbie, when Joe Zawinul was alive, Clark Terry. I love Clark Terry. He's one of the great jazz trumpeters from all the way back to the old big band days with Ellington. But he is one of the most interesting people I ever met in my life. But I spent a lot, I even met Ellington a couple of times in my life, and Ellington was a very interesting person. The first time I met him, there was a reception being given for him one afternoon. A friend of mine was the managing editor for a newspaper in New York City, New York Age, and they were giving him a reception, and there were all these ladies lined in this room, and they were like wall to wall waiting for him, because he was very charming. In fact, he used to compete with his father on that, with the whole question of charm. And he walked in, and all these ladies are waiting for him. And he did one thing that I never forgot. He made each woman feel like she was the only woman in that room. And I thought, much of my upbringing was more West Indian, not so much a Southern. But I did meet my grandmother when I brought my father here back home to bury him. And she, Grandma Williams, she was part Cherokee Indian. And she was a little woman, had 13 children. And I was sitting next to her, and she said to me, which one of my boys is gone? I said, Dee. And she said, well, I guess I'm next. 2 weeks later, she passed away. But she was pretty amazing. When she met my son for the first time, he was 9 years old, she couldn't understand why he didn't learn how to shoot a gun.
Do you know how to shoot a gun?
But I have the Williams family here, they're wonderful people. They're really beautiful, beautiful people, because they're this incredible mixture. When you see them, I went to a reunion one time, and I was just amazed at the beauty of these people.
You had some cousins here yesterday.
Yeah, I had some cousins here yesterday, yeah.
And Billy, do you know how to shoot a gun?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.
Rifle or hand?
Oh, handguns. I'm pretty good at the handgun.
What's your handgun of choice?
Well, I don't want to discuss guns right now.
I don't know anything about them, so I was
Well,
a Colt 45?
but I used to go skeet shooting a lot years
That's
ago.
the clay thing, right?
Yeah, I used to do that with the CIA guys. That was fun, interesting.
And why were you with the CIA?
Through a friend of mine.
It wasn't like research for a movie.
No,
Oh, okay. So Billy is friends with the CIA. Yes, sir.
You enjoy fishing, what type of fishing? Freshwater, salt, something like that?
no. The last time I went fishing was with my father. We sat in the sun for all day long, and then we got nothing. That's a memory that I will never forget. One of those wonderful moments with your father, right? And he's like a country boy, and he was trying to teach me how to fish. I'm a city boy, and nothing. We were out somewhere in Long Island, I think.
It's much better to go to a restaurant, just order what you fish you want, right?
I was talking about taking my grandkids out for fishing, but my daughter is a vegetarian, and she's really into not killing animals and things of that nature.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
In Empire Strikes Back, at the end of the movie, was it in the script or was it coincidental that your character was wearing Han's clothes?
We have two answers. He'll tell you one and I'll tell you.
Well,
Which one do you want to tell us?
well, my version is that they were lovers.
And when Princess Leia walked in the dark, they put on the wrong clothes. My answer is, he used to own the Falcon, and when Han got it, he looked at the wardrobe and went, wow, I'm going to look good. You want to know the real reason? Academy Award winner John Mallow, who did the costume designing, it's actually in Star Wars folklore. It's a Carillion outfit, and it's just part of their group. That's all that it actually is. But it gets completely lost, so our answers are better. Good question. Who else? Yes, sir. In the back.
Sorry for talking, Billy. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the Max character from the Cosby scene where I'm running away with what appears to be an ice cream maker. You ever heard of the ice cream maker guy?
Oh, you're the guy. Oh, right. I remember seeing you. Oh, well, okay. You do know you're a ridiculous human being, don't you?
Someone else had their hand up as well. Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you have any hilarious stories that you can share about Harrison Ford that we might not know about.
No, not really. He's a good man, though. I really have a lot of respect for him. It's, you know, what I respect about it, I've seen him with his sons, and he's a very good father. And that tells me, whenever I see that, that tells me a lot about a man, you know, about the whole male thing, as far as I'm concerned. I'm have a lot of respect for him.
I can tell you a quick one, because it's interesting. When he was on the set of Star Wars for the first time, he asked the tech guys, how do you fly the Millennium Falcon? And they looked at him and we said, we don't know. And he goes, it flies, and he's a pilot in real life, and he wanted to know. And they kept telling him, we don't know. So he said, just forget it, I'll figure it out. And he sat there with Peter Mayhew, and they designated each button to do something, and he figured out how the Falcon would fly on his own. So everything you see him do, he methodically planned it out. So that's pretty cool. Someone in your area had their hand up, no? Okay, yes?
Scrubs just came up, maybe my favorite TV show of all time. I just want to know what it's like when Zach Braff and Don Bates on, because I know they're like humongous Star Wars fans, and they just mob you like the entire day.
No, I had a lot of fun with those people, yeah. Donald Faison, he's a funny fellow. No, it was good.
Did you guys all see that episode of Scrubs? It's hilarious. It was on the sizzle reel. Did you guys see it? Yeah.
In fact, Faison, he and I worked a lot with Seth Green on some of the Robot Chicken stuff.
All right. Last question, anyone? Otherwise, what we're going to do is head back to the table. If you have more questions, you're welcome to come up and ask. It's not a problem at all, okay? Anyone want to do it in the room? Yes, last one. Go ahead.
What's your favorite car? What kind of car do you drive on the weekend? What do you like to have?
Well, I've been driving Mercedes for a long time, and that's what I drive now. There was a period when I was driving Jags, and I like the Jag. But those are the two. But I still own, I have a 1984 wagon Cherokee, Jeep Cherokee, without the headrest, and I refuse to give it up. And everybody in my household, they would love to see it disappear. And, I refuse to give that thing up. And now I think it's gone beyond classic. I think it's now vintage. Is that how they call it?
Vintage.
Yeah, vintage. So I'm hanging on until the very end.
All right, make him feel the love, guys.
Thank you very much. Bless you. Thanks. It's great.